Welcome to Fragments of Old Scilly with Trevor Kirk on Radio Scilly 107.9 FM and online at radioscilly.com. In this, the first Fragments of the new year, I'd like to talk about the United Nations designation of 2010 as the International Year of Biodiversity. The initiative is basically a year-long celebration of plant and animal diversity around the world. It's also an opportunity to heighten people's awareness of the need to protect and retain the world's biodiversity. The main message is that human actions can threaten the viability and security of plant and animal species. Obvious examples would include logging in rainforests, sea pollution, air pollution, and the wide range of climate change impacts such as sea level rise and changing weather patterns. It's clear that, despite first impressions, biodiversity is not solely about the world of nature. Biodiversity is not just about plants and animals. Rather, biodiversity is also about the interface between people and nature. Now, I'm not denying that there are probably interspecies relationships in which humans don't interfere or intervene. However, from an archaeological and historical perspective, I'm mainly interested in the interactions that existed in the past between people, plants and animals. In the 21st century, public attention generally focuses on the negative human impact on biodiversity. However, people's relationships with plants and animals are a complex web of positive and negative impacts. Indeed, it's often difficult to judge in absolute terms whether a human relationship with nature is entirely positive or entirely negative. The domestication of plants and animals is an obvious case. Farming has clearly altered habitats and ecosystems in spectacular ways across the world and through time. Terraces and irrigation systems in the Andes and wheat prairies in North America are just two very obvious examples. On the one hand, these farming activities have significantly changed indigenous ecosystems, with American wheat prairies especially limiting biodiversity and placing pressures on soil fertility. However, the flip side is that people are fed, and in the case of traditional Andean farming, in a relatively sustainable way. In Scilly, farming has shaped the landscape of the islands for generations. Permanent and temporary pasture, heathland, bulb strips and orchards, all of these features of the Scillonian landscape are in large part a product of farming. Crucially, farming subtly intertwines with biodiversity management. In Scilly, a healthy balance is traditionally retained between agricultural productivity and biodiversity conservation. There are, quite naturally, different opinions on certain issues, such as the impact of non-native species such as pittosporum field hedges, non-native in origin, yet now an iconic feature of the island's landscape, though potentially damaging to the biodiversity of heathland if left to spread unchecked. As the International Year of Biodiversity 2010 gets underway, it's worth reminding ourselves that traditional boundaries of academic study, such as distinctions between archaeology and history on the one hand, and ecology and botany on the other, are not always helpful or meaningful. Rather, there's a real sense in which, say, archaeology shades off into ecology, with both disciplines being essentially interested in the relationship between people and the natural world. Thanks for listening to Fragments of Old Scilly with Trevor Kirk on Radio Scilly 107.9 FM and online at radioscilly.com.